My oldest daughter loves chocolate and she loves to bake. And all through high school, she would be tinkering around in the kitchen trying to bake her, I don't know, make the best chocolate cake or brownies or chocolate chip cookies. And every time she would, oh my God, make a mess of the kitchen. You know, she's pulling this out and that out and things were just all over. And so one of my motivations was to create a cake mix, not the kind that you buy. Well, she would buy those occasionally with a vegan edition on the back. But to have your own cake mix that you can have in your cupboard at any time so that at, I don't know, at 10 o'clock at night, you just get that urge for a mug cake, a chocolate mug cake. You can pull out your cake mix and within a couple of minutes, just mix something really simple together and bake it or microwave it. If you've got friends coming over and you don't want to make a huge mess, but you need a cake, a birthday cake, or you need some delicious brownies, you've got your cake mix that can turn into a variety of things, whether it's cake or brownies or muffins or cookies. This is a phenomenal cake mix, and I love it because of two secret ingredients that are in it. Yes, it's chocolatey. It is this dark chocolate, oh my God, it's fantastic, dark chocolatey flavor. But in addition, it's got an element that just takes it over the top, that makes it much more complex, and that elevates it. And that is the addition of both ground coffee and cinnamon. Can't really discern exactly what those flavors are that make it magical, but they do. So I hope you give it a spin. Now, I gotta tell you, my daughter finally did. After I bugged her for many years, she kept trying every online recipe for brownies. And she said, these are gross. These are gross. One day she called me up and said, Mom, I made your chocolate cake mix and I made the brownies. Oh my God, they're so good. Why didn't you tell me? I've been telling her for years. So, all right, get to the kitchen, make your cake mix, put it in your cupboard, and you can have a chocolatey dessert whenever you want without making a mess in the kitchen. All right, we're gonna start out with some flour. We're gonna add two different kinds of flour. You don't need to. You can do all-purpose or cake flour if you want. But this recipe does allow you to boost up the nutrition a little bit by adding half of a whole wheat pastry flour. That's entirely up to you. You don't need to do that. You can just do all-purpose. And I've made this successfully with Bob's Red Mill gluten-free flour, not the one with the chickpea flour, but the other one. That one works very well for this recipe. So you can make this gluten-free as well, but I don't have any on hand, so I'm gonna go in with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Always scoop and scrape just to make sure you are measuring correctly. I can't tell you how many cooking classes I've taught where people just don't know how to measure. Okay, we're gonna go in with an equal amount of whole wheat pastry flour. And luckily I have an heirloom flour, which is grown locally, and it's very light in color. You know, sometimes they call one like this white whole wheat. Look at that. You see how light in color that is? 2 and 3. Okay, I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of cocoa powder. This is not Dutch processed. This is natural cocoa powder. If it just says cocoa powder, it is natural cocoa powder. Do not use Dutch processed, which is an alkalized cocoa powder. Makes a darker chocolatey flavor, but you have to use a different leavening agent, meaning natural cocoa powder, what we're using right now, works best with baking soda. Alkalized cocoa powder or Dutch process works best with baking powder. So we're using baking soda in this recipe. Now you'll notice that the recipe in my book will say to sift all the ingredients together. I am being very lazy and I'm only sifting the cocoa powder to get the lumps out. All right, now I'm gonna add the baking soda. I need 2 tablespoons of baking soda, and baking soda also has lumps, so I'm going to sieve that. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of salt, 4 cups of organic sugar. Now you can make this recipe with coconut sugar as well, and if you do, add 4.5 cups, and that will give it a lovely caramelly flavor. Okay, that alone will work for the chemistry of the cake, but to really take the flavor over the top, we are adding 2 additional ingredients. The first is 6 tablespoons of finely ground coffee. A dark roast is best. And finally, a tablespoon of cinnamon, or 3 teaspoons. I can't get the tablespoon measure in there, so I'm just going to use the teaspoon. Okay, and now I'm just going to whisk this till it's all combined. And yes, you can sift the whole thing, but I do it the lazy way, and I do find that it works, and I don't tell anyone, and they never know. But you do have to whisk in the bowl for a while until it's completely combined. So keep turning the bowl, keep whisking, so you're getting every last bit. And of course, you can go ahead and sift all of this if you like together. You want to make sure there's no errant white patches or dark patches or something that doesn't get mixed. So you do have to take a few minutes to do this, but I still find it easier than sifting it. And to store the cake mix, just find a super large container to put it all in, and it will keep in your cupboard for, oh my gosh, months and months and months. Okay, now my cake mix is ready to go, and today we are going to make a chocolate layer cake and brownies from this. All right, so once you have your chocolate cake mix, making chocolate cake is such a breeze because you don't have to remeasure everything. Get your dry measuring cup in there and then fill it to overflowing and then level it out. So I'm going to go in with 4 scoops of this. 4 scoops meaning 4 cups. Alrighty. Okay, I'm going to just make a little well in the center here. And I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of a liquid oil. So you don't need butter for this. You're not going to miss the butter flavor. This is so delicious as it is. Can't find my apple cider vinegar, so I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of this peach cider vinegar. Should be about the same acidity. That's about 2 tablespoons. Okay, you should probably measure that. Likewise, I have my homemade vanilla. Just going to add about a teaspoon of that, or 2 teaspoons. There, 2 teaspoons right there. And finally, I've got 2 cups of boiling water. And that boiling water is going to react with the baking soda in here right away. And it's going to create a nice immediate rise and light and, oh my God, tender texture. It's going to be amazing. So now I'm just going to whisk this till it's completely incorporated. Make sure there's no lumps. A cake, unlike a muffin, can handle a little bit more whisking because you want it to be even. You don't want that, muffins can have sort of a rough texture in some ways. Cakes, you want it to be delicate. So go in there and just make sure that it's all uniform and whisked well. All right, and now this is ready to pour into the pan. I'm going to put it into a 1/2 sheet pan and make a layer cake, but this will make 2 8 or 9-inch layers as well. Or cup. Okay, I'm going to butter the sides. I've got parchment on the bottom. This is just some homemade butter. You know I know how to make homemade butter. You can use a pan spray as well too if you want to just get a can out and do that. But I find butter works just fine and helps to prevent sticking on the sides. Now I'm going to pour the batter into this pan. What am I going to do with this chocolate cake? I'll have to make some buttercream. And then, I don't know, buttercream or whipped cream, I don't know. All right, so we want this to be even. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna drop it like that, make sure there's no air pockets. And then we're gonna bake that at 350 degrees for somewhere around probably 15 to 20 minutes. So making brownies requires one extra step, which is adding melted chocolate and melted butter. And we do that together over a double boiler. So I've got a pot with some water in it. You can go with a 70, 80% chocolate. That would be fantastic. We're not talking about unsweetened chocolate, we're talking about dark chocolate, so slightly sweetened. So I've got 6 ounces of dark chocolate and 4 ounces of butter, and we're gonna melt them together in the double boiler. And meanwhile, we are gonna make either a chia seed or flaxseed egg. So I'm gonna take a tablespoon of ground flax seeds, and I'm gonna mix that with 3 tablespoons of water to make our flax egg. You can also do chia seed egg, and we're just gonna let that sit for a few minutes. All right, it's beginning to melt. So I just want to mix it. Chocolate, if it's melted by itself, if the temperature gets hot, too hot, it does get grainy, but adding it to butter, melting it together will prevent the graininess from happening. So even if it gets a little hotter, it's not the end of the world. So we just want to get this all melted. Should just be a couple of minutes. All right, for a brownie, we're gonna take 2 cups of the cake mix. This is a gooey brownie. So we're gonna add the flax egg right there in the middle. We're also gonna add a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, which will also help keep it really super moist. And finally, we're gonna add, ooh, this is hot, this chocolate butter mixture. Scrape out every last bit of chocolatey goodness. And now we're just gonna mix, that's it. Now, if you want to add nuts to it, like chopped walnuts or pecans, you can do that. Or you can just leave it plain. You know, some people love to have a nutty brownie. Other people just want pure chocolate delight, and they don't want the interference of a nutty walnut or something. Okay, so it's considerably thicker in texture than a cake, but using the same base. So you didn't have to measure out all new ingredients to make the brownie. All you had to do is go to your cupboard and reach for that chocolate cake mixture, and now you've got chocolate cake and you've got brownies at the same time. So you just want to make sure that we get every last bit of goodness. Okay, so it's going to look like that, and I'm going to put butter all over the bottom and sides of a 9-inch Pyrex container, and my brownie mixture is gonna go in there. All right, so I'm gonna just top these with walnuts, and we are now ready to bake both the cake and the brownies at the same temperature, 350 degrees, so into the oven they go. Cake is pulled away from the side. It's very, very bouncy. We're just gonna let it cool. This will collapse. You want it to be moist on the inside. This is gonna kind of flatten out as it cools, and it's gonna be really gooey and delicious on the inside. And we're just gonna leave them alone until they're completely cool, which will take a few hours. Okay, so I baked these yesterday. And yes, of course, with brownies, you must exhibit self-control and not try to cut into them when they're warm, because they just crumble to pieces. So since we were filming today, I let them cool overnight, and now I can cut into them and get beautiful pieces. You know, I'm gonna go see a friend later today, so I'm gonna take him most of this. But before then, I'm going to enjoy a piece. Oh my gosh. You can see that dense, moist, gooey interior. I'm going to give it a try with a cup of coffee. As for this beautiful cake, I'm going to decorate it with some Swiss buttercream. Now, what is a Swiss buttercream? That is a buttercream that's made out of meringue, typically egg whites that are boiled with sugar and whipped to hold stiff peaks, and then butter is added to that, so it's incredibly light. Well, I'm going to be doing that with aquafaba in the next episode of The Vegan Good Life with Miyoko. That'll go up next week, so be sure to catch that. And we're gonna decorate this beautiful cake, cover the whole thing in ganache, oh my God, and have an elevated chocolatey experience. You can't have chocolate. You can't have chocolate, nor coffee. I know, it's not interesting, is it? No. All right, nothing like a little afternoon pick-me-up. Brownie, a little cup of espresso. It's so moist, oh my God. It's so good. I'm so sorry you can't have it. Doggies can't have chocolate, but mommies can. Well, thanks for watching another episode of The Vegan Good Life with Miyoko. Tune in next week to learn how to make Swiss buttercream and watch me decorate that beautiful chocolate layer cake that we just baked today. Buon appetito. Until next week.